before getting started, I thought it'd be important to go through just a little bit about what deep democracy means in process work, because again, we use it as this semi technical word. And actually, as someone who studies process work, the tools and techniques of that modality make the most sense in the context of deep democracy. But deep democracy is very, very dear to my heart. And I believe that it is a value system and a worldview and a spiritual practice and a psychological orientation and an ecological principle and a political philosophy. It's a very rich orientation towards phenomenal existence, towards life itself. And whereas democracy itself has obviously a rich tradition that believed in an educated population and lively debate and all kinds of things like that. Certainly in the modern world and in the context where I live in the United States, democracy has become a very simplified and very thin concept of majority rule. And I believe that a lot of times we can live this out in our lives, that in a way we are functioning ourselves as this sort of very thin version of democracy, where whatever is the majority idea of who we think we should be, or the majority idea of what we think will be most popular, ends up being what we present to the world. And what we deny ourselves is this rich, lively debate underneath, is this deep democratic process that happens. And so this deep democracy is, in its essence, about allowing every voice to be heard, even the ones that we want to marginalize, even the ones who are tyrants or dictators or slaves. It is a wholeness principle that believes that there is a system intelligence that comes from really including and really listening to every voice that might be in the system. So, as a value system, it's this belief that every voice matters, that we're in this together, and that whoever it is that we don't include in that process will then become a sabotage or a disturber or an addiction on the outside. So, it's actually a stability principle that from including and incorporating all voices, experiences, and perspectives, everyone is enriched, everyone is benefited, and it leads to a more stable and lasting peace. I think it also looks a lot about our ways of relating with ourselves and each other, and how we structure and evolve our collective systems to believing that listening to diversity and accommodating each other is actually better for the whole. And Arnold Mindell says that the larger goal of deep democracy is not about me changing you and you changing me, but us learning how to relate. And I feel that this happens on every level, that we need to learn how to relate with ourselves internally, as well as interpersonally, and as well as on the world level in our society. But for me, I think it's really a spiritual practice, because the real work of living deep democracy is intensely difficult. There are so many voices that we don't want to listen to. There are so many voices of ourselves that we haven't accepted. And especially once we enter into the relational field, there are so many things that we have edges to, that maybe we think the relationship isn't strong enough for, that the other person can't take. But just to keep it at the level of the internal right now, at the intra-psychic with the self, I feel like we don't know how to coexist fully yet in a way that supports our differences. We don't know exactly how to turn towards, or at least I am still learning how to turn towards those voices that are scary to me, or that I feel like put me in a vulnerable position. And so it takes a lot of facing ourselves and changing and humbling and empowering ourselves in order just to be able to listen to what's really going on with us.